Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a very active pattern. This will be bringing one very large, massive system, if you will. That's what I've been kind of calling it in the past few days. And it will also be bringing another system that is also pretty big. And honestly, in the past few days, it has trended to become pretty much as big as that second one. So if you will, it's pretty much two big, very big systems. And they won't be bringing snow. That's why I'm not calling them snowstorms. So don't get too excited about that unless you live in the mountains in the west. But there's still some very interesting kind of repercussions that these systems may bring for our weather pattern that may result in more of a cool weather for the United States, and that could, prepare us for a snowstorm in the near future after these initial, if you will, rainstorms. But yes, they're very impressive, and there's a really cool features about them, so I think it's a very exciting episode, and yeah, it's a continuation of what we've been talking about for the past few days. Before I get into this, if you guys would like to support this channel, if you do end up enjoying the video while you are watching this, consider subscribing, consider liking the video. Obviously, don't do that just because I told you so. If you're new, check out the videos, the channel, and if you do enjoy it, consider doing that. And if you have any comments, concerns, questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I will do my best to go ahead and answer them, as I answer usually most. Alright, let's start talking about this. First off, I want to show you the Gfs model, and the Gfs model is a very good model. It goes out to 384 hours, which is farther than any of the other models. And I'm just going to play this forward. So right now we do have a little bit of a storm across the northwest. That is kind of the first one that's moving in. It's not as significant across the western United States, but it blows up in size once it reaches the eastern United States. And as we push this forward, notice that's, again, that is kind of some precipitation from that low pressure, which is still centered across the Rockies at this point, but mainly it's going to be tapping in a lot of moisture from the south. And as we push this forward, look what happens. So this is Saturday. Tomorrow, for many folks across much of the eastern United States, maybe some showers across the Great Lakes, but it's only up until Sunday. It's going to be dry up until Sunday for most of the United States. And this is where it looks. So this is 1 a.m., a very early Sunday or very late Saturday. And we start seeing this low pressure, right? It develops a very strong band of showers of rain. And you can see that is going to be represented by a 6-hour difference. Look at that. I mean, that's an explosion. And look, this system, yes, it doesn't really have any snow, maybe a bit across the Dakotas. But that's not really tied with this system. But look, yes, strong winds, very heavy rainfall. I wouldn't say severe weather is too big of a concern, but just a strong kind of rain bands, and they could be occurring across similar areas for a very prolonged period of time. And look, this thing is already big. Within a really not even a full day of it developing, it's stretching anywhere from the northeast all the way into Nebraska and Iowa. So it's a half-country storm in terms of size, if you will. And this thing continues tracking towards the east. You could see no snow, but a lot of rain with this. And what it does do that's pretty interesting is look. So by the time Sunday and Monday is over, which, by the way, again, if you didn't know, this is where you could read your timeline. So October 25th, 7 a.m., that's Monday, 7 a.m. in the morning. This is how it looks like raining in cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, the Northeast. And as it pushes forward, notice that the system may seem to be weakening as it pushes towards the Northeast into Monday and Tuesday of this upcoming week. But it does, of course, tap into that moisture from the ocean, and you can see that it again starts kind of re-intensifying. It does drop quite a bit of heavy rain potentially across the extreme coastal areas, Cape Cod, Long Island maybe. This is again late Monday into early Tuesday, and by Tuesday during the day it's still spinning across the Northeast, and it is reluctant to move out quickly. Look, by Wednesday, really 24 hours later from this image, which is Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, it's still raining across New England, and then it finally pushes out. So that's already an impressive storm, and it's pretty big. However, the big one you could see is across the west, and it starts coming in onto the United States the same time this one starts exploding across the Midwest on Sunday. So look at this, Sunday afternoon across the western United States, California, tons of rain. Northern California could be seeing widespread, very heavy rainfall, snow across the mountains. And look, this is a massive storm. You see those isobars? Those are packed. We can't really see the center of the storm because it's just off the map. But if I were to show it, which I don't know if I can without zooming out too far, and I mean, I could try fixing kind of the region to see if we could see it somehow, which I would have to see, what would I have to click on? North America. Yeah, look at that, 955 millibars. That is a very, very, very strong system, very strong winds, and obviously you could see why that is. I'm coining this a massive or giant storm. It's gonna be big even before it hits the United States, which it eventually does, and you can see a lot of snow across the mountains. But anywhere else, very heavy rainfall, which is a good thing, I guess. They need that, but this may be just a bit too much. And by Monday and into Tuesday, it's still spinning away across the west, bands of rain, bands of snow, wherever you live. It's going to be pretty much impacting you either with cloud cover, cooler temperatures, or more directly with rainfall and potentially even snowfall for, again, the residents that live in the higher of the highest elevations. And notice that into Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, they see some rain, which is good. They need that. And by the time it is now Tuesday, look, we see this system move onto the plains, and it's already strong. We have very strong winds across Nebraska, Kansas, much of the Midwest, and these are blowing straight from the south. So what does that mean? Warmer temperatures are going to be out ahead of this large system. And again, this is early next week. This isn't at this point far out. It was initially when we started talking about it. But look at this little plume of very warm temperatures kind of squeezing in behind the cool air of the second one and the cool air of this first one. And yes, some of those temperatures will be rather warm, obviously indicated by those anomalies, which tell us how above average they are. And you can see it's 30s and 40s all around this little band, but right when that little warm kind of pocket of air, it could be up to 70 degrees briefly, and very briefly, because that thing obviously moves along pretty quickly. And 70s and 80s, that's very warm for October across kind of the central plains area, and almost November. I mean, goodness, this is October 27th. Wow, this month has passed way faster than I thought it did. And notice that by Wednesday morning, this is what it looks like. This is really Wednesday early morning. This is kind of when the morning that everybody usually considers morning, 6, 7 o'clock, right? For some, I guess this is morning, 1 a.m. But the thing is that, look, it has it's giant, and that's why I've been kind of saying this for the past few days, that it's giant, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's powerful and massive, right? I mean, usually that's the case because a large system is also powerful, and in this case, it is definitely powerful and large. Once it hits the U.S., it does weaken a bit. The mountains kind of shred it up, but look how big that is. That range stretches all the way from southern Canada, Alberta, Manitoba, all the way into the Gulf Coast of the United States. And yes, it does eventually become more of a stronger system. So at first, it's just more of a large, very large, massive storm, but not necessarily strong. But then it kind of catches up on that strength aspect, and it becomes a much stronger system. And look, so we start seeing the winds kind of behind it blow pretty strongly, and notice we do see that 540 line indicating cooler temperatures. Such a big system would be very unusual for it not to bring any cooler temperatures down. And look at all those packed isobars around it. I mean, that is obviously strong winds on pretty much every front of this storm across the east, the south, the north, the west. It's a large system. The rain is occurring. Obviously, it won't be I would say a flood maker for most, as it's just light to moderate rain for a good portion of the United States, but it's well spread out, so that's good, I guess. And then look, this thing sits a while. Look at that, the 6-hour timeline. That low pressure barely budges in any direction, so that's pretty cool to see. By this time, this is now Friday into Saturday, we still see the rain across Iowa, the Midwest. It's a very, very large system. It's super expansive, and you can see that its rain shield stretches from South Dakota, the plains, all the way off the northeast coast. So it's a very big system. Again, not a snowstorm. If it were a bit colder, maybe some of this would transition into snow, and you can see the GFS is indicating some of that. But again, it's been very warm this month, and this system will probably be a rainmaker. And you can see that it does eventually kind of just transition and weaken into a washed up upper level low, and really just if you will, skedaddles out of here, right? So from those two systems, so that's a pretty big onslaught, and that may not seem like it until I show you the total accumulated precip. Look at that. Again, there will be amounts that are probably over a foot across the eastern United States somewhere, because let me tell you why. This is not a high-res model. It doesn't individually show which county or which city will see the most. With this model, GFS and the Canadian and Euro, which I'll show you in just a second, you're just supposed to look at the regions and see, okay, obviously it's not favoring much for, say, the Southwest here, but more for the Northeast. And, if you start getting these purple and especially these red colors for a long-range model, you know that there will be some amounts in here that get a thunderstorm or 2 thunderstorms. And they could reach, again, potentially double-digit amounts across somewhere in the Great Lakes, the Northeast. And look at the West. It's quite a bit as well. And especially across the Sierra Nevada, where the strong wind from that storm will actually be kind of helping out to squeeze out more of that precipitation. As let me draw this out for you. As the winds blow off the shore, they run against these mountains, and that helps to kind of steer the winds, if you will, to the north, and to the north meaning in terms of latitude. Altitude, and what that does is it kind of squeezes out extra precipitation. And notice how that extra precip is centered across the higher elevations all along these mountains. And there's the Bitterroots, there's the Cascades, there's the Grand Tetons. So that's a pretty cool phenomenon, but it's a well observed one. So yeah, that's the total accumulated precip. It's quite a bit. Total snowfall across the mountains, obviously pretty high as well. You saw those rain amounts, and I think there will be amounts in some locations over 4 to 5, maybe even 6 feet in the Sierra Nevada. Other mountain ranges, not as much, but still decent for how warm it is and how early in the year it is. And I do want to mention that, say, the model run before this, it still showed a lot of precip. It's just the placement sometimes a bit off. You can see this one shows a bit more towards the coastal areas. The one I just was done showing you kept that a bit away from the New York kind of area, New York City. The one in the morning, you could see, showed not as heavy amounts for the upper kind of Midwest, while the most recent one showed some more significant amounts. So, there are some differences, but regardless, it's not really going to make a difference on the title, if you will. Maybe just, for your localized area, which is very hard to predict those type of differences. Now, I want to show you in the future, because I said that this storm may have implications for future systems, and kind of the pattern turns colder, and that seems to be the case. Look, right after that storm passes away, that big one, the giant one, this is Halloween. Halloween, again, it's still very far out. Some models show a very nasty Halloween. Some show a decent, like this one. But look, we have a system that rides across southern Canada, and this system, it just brings, without any issues, a large cold air mass, probably the largest one of the year yet, of the season, the fall season. And look, that brings pretty chilly temperatures, turns on a lake effect for many across Lake Superior, even Lake Michigan, and into Erie. Look at that right there, into early November. Again, nothing too extraordinary for this time of the year. Yes, a bit below average, but by this time, normal years in a, I would say, not such a warm year as we've been having, we would already be at least having 1 or 2 of these kind of blasts of cool air in this magnitude range. We've had a few, but they've been ranging 1 to 2 degrees below average, and it felt much colder because of how warm it's been. But yeah, and then afterwards, you can see that doesn't really produce a snowstorm per se, but that's already some indication that the lake effect is turning on. That means cold air is at least required. And then the GFS, you can see, does show a system come through with another blast of cold air, some snow wrapping around. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, this is extremely far out, but I think, even if it's not the coldest pattern that we could possibly have, it's gonna be snowier because, well, we're heading towards winter. Let me show you the Canadian model, a completely different model. I just want to show you the big systems that we've been talking about so far. So again, there's that one that explodes across Sunday and into Monday. There's our timeline, 7 a.m. on Sunday. This is noon. You could see that very heavy rain across central Illinois, Missouri. This is more of like a winter storm type rain. It won't be just these brief downpours and then sunny conditions, right? It'll be probably an all-day rain event, which is, I guess, good because it's more of a soaking rain. But there could be quite a lot of it with such a system like this. And you can see the Canadian keeps it a bit further towards the south, keeps the heaviest rain kind of south of Wisconsin, northern Michigan, and Minnesota, but it keeps the heaviest across central Illinois, Indiana, and into Ohio. So very, very, that's already a very potent storm. And you can see that this Canadian model, it weakens it by the time it comes into Monday across the Northeast. But on Tuesday, again, it strengthens it. Look at that rain off Cape Cod and into kind of Nantucket areas. That is very, 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 very significant rain, and potentially, again, a steady downpour for several hours. And that system, like the GFS, it lingers. Look at that. I mean, still there across the Northeast until this big beast, this big boy, kicks it out. And looking back at that big boy, look, on on Sunday, again, it starts coming in across the western United States. Not a lot of snow at first, but it does trigger with those heavy precipitation rates, some cooler temperatures kind of being brought down from the higher elevations. And look, we see more snow popping up across the Sierra Nevadas and into the mountains further across Colorado and into Wyoming. And then that system does make its way. Again, look at that, already a large spread in terms of its precip shield from the north to the south, probably, at least, I would say almost probably 2,000 miles. And yeah, it does have extremely strong winds with it. I wouldn't say extremely, but probably some wind advisories, maybe some high wind even warnings will be issued across the Midwest, and it does sneak its way towards the Northeast very slowly but surely. Again, kind of even triggering some lake effect, but that would mainly be in the form of rain. Canadian only goes out to 240 hours, but you can see it does try bringing in a bit of that cooler air towards the kind of the Halloween and November time frame. So definitely interesting that the models are starting to show that. I would say more typical for this time of year, kind of what's expected. Total accumulated precip, nothing less impressive than what the GFS showed. Lots of rain. This one probably shows even more across the Midwest. Shows quite a bit across the West, especially California, the mountainous areas. In terms of snowfall, let's take a glance at this. You could see also pretty high snowfall amounts. Maybe a bit less for this year in Nevada compared to what the GFS was showing. European model, I want to show you this model before I go, and I want to keep this video a bit shorter today, under probably 20 minutes would be ideal. And let's see what it shows. So this is a very good model. I've shown you two that show a very big system. Let's see if the third one does. Spoiler alert, it does. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making a video about this with such confidence, if you will, for the past few days. So there's our first system exploding. You could see that the European does show that there could be some embedded thunderstorms. Again, not a severe weather risk out of proportions. Maybe, I don't know what they have issued. I haven't checked the Storm Prediction Center, which is a center that kind of issues a thunderstorm risk, how severe they can be if you don't know. But I would say, obviously, with any storm like this, there probably is going to be lightning, thunder, and that already makes it dangerous enough. I would maybe say a slight they will issue, if that. But it turns more into a very, very heavy rainmaker. I could see some severe weather developing out of this cold front potentially, which, especially towards the south, that may warrant a slight, maybe even an enhanced risk. I don't know. We'll have to see, especially right there. That cold front, according to the European, develops actually much stronger than what the GFS and Canadian show. So that might actually be even an enhanced or slight risk of severe weather. But yes, a very heavy rainmaker. You can see that it takes a while, and it does weaken kind of on Monday, but by the time it reaches the Northeast by Tuesday, it does start re-strengthifying with the kind of the moisture from the ocean. Re-strengthifying, I don't know if that's even a word. Probably not, but notice, look at that drag from the ocean, how much precip it brings up. Goodness, that is impressive. Look at that. That cold front explodes in size, and the Northeast does get clobbered with very heavy rain. Look at that. That is, again, all day pretty much soaking rain event, and it continues. It stalls for a good while across New England, the Northeast, and again, only this beast kicks it out of there. Going back to looking at when that beast comes in, again, this one's developing. This beast is exploding, similar to what the other models were showing, right? We see a lot of rain, very, very, very strong system, very large as well. This one hits southwest Canada, if you will, the land falling low pressure, and it does produce snow across the mountains, rain, and once the system makes it onto the plains, it does explode into size. It's a very large system, huge winds. I mean, look at that. Look at that stretch of precip. That is just something that's really cool. How straight it is and how long that thing is. Goodness. And it does, again, kind of go a bit further towards the south than what the other models are showing. But that's been a trend for the past few days with the models that bring it further towards the south, and it does right up the northeast coast with, again, very heavy rainfall potential. The European likes showing these systems developing into big beasts of rain. And yes, on top of that heavy rain event from that first one, that could cause some significant flooding. And yes, the European also does show some signs of colder air. Again, probably what the GFS is showing, triggering that lake effect. At least that lake effect, if not some more additional snow that could be squeezed out from any moisture that is lingering behind. Total accumulated precip, nothing less impressive than the Canadian and the European. Notice extremely heavy rain amounts across, Illinois, Iowa, the Midwest, the South. You can see how large these areas are with that heavy rain. And the Northeast, especially, according to the European, are favored to see potentially, again, double-digit amounts. And if such a long-range model is showing such high amounts at such a widespread rate, that is a bit concerning. You can see this one has just a lull across Wisconsin with nothing. That's interesting to see that. And there could be some rather sharp cutoffs with these systems, but look at the west. That is some very, very strong rain amounts like the other models were showing. And in terms of the snowfall, yes, it is also rather impressive. And if you were to take a look at this, you could see that the Cascades pick up, or sorry, all the way into British Columbia, they pick up, the most of the most, probably up to 100 inches in some isolated areas. But even for the Sierra, it shows up to, look at that number, 69 right there, 70. And the Bitterroots, maybe 1 to 2 feet. The Grand Tetons, 1 to 2 feet. But yeah, definitely more of a rain scenario. But for being this early on in the year and with such lack of cold air, it's not really that big of a surprise. All right, that is basically it for today's video, guys. I do want to show you one quick last thing. I think the video is over 20 minutes at this point, whatever. I want to show you the Gfs Ensembles. And this is a bunch of models that kind of show a averaged out temperature or precip forecast that meteorologists use to see what's to come in a very long range. And look what the models show. So for now, obviously, you could see it's been very warm, and it's going to continue like that for a while. Maybe a bit of cooler air across the Great Lakes is in the past few days. It has been and will be, but again, heat takes place. But towards the very end of the long range, the heat, it kind of diminishes in magnitude, and we start seeing more of these blue colors. And especially if I take a look at the daily kind of 2-meter temperature anomalies, not the 5-day average. Look, we start, again, ignore really the date. Just look at the map, and what we start seeing is, look at that. I mean, that's almost a cooler pattern. Obviously, there will be kind of flare-ups of that heat, but definitely not as a kind of a downright, look at that, even as far as early November. It's at least in more of a normal pattern, not compared to this, like these extremes, mainly on the heat side that we've been seeing. And I want to show you the newest model of the GFS members, which only goes out to 318, but honestly, I'm looking at this myself for the first time. Let's see if that trend continues. Yes, we definitely see that warm air kind of more diminishing, and we do see that pocket of cool air, especially across the eastern and southern United States. So we'll have to see how that sets up. The European ensembles, it's only go out to 240, but it's also, again, many models, and they're pretty accurate because it goes out only to 240. It's probably a bit more accurate. And again, we have those several cool pockets of air dancing with the warmth out ahead of those systems. But towards the long range, look, they favor more of a cooler pattern, and that could again trigger our first kind of snowstorm. So we'll have to wait and see. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.